272, class 272. Yes, sir. And I'm going to continue with the same thing as in the last class. The regular verbs in the present, past, and present perfect. Simply because every verb, I teach the verb, but the verb gives me the opportunity to cover a lot of territory in English. So I'm using, in essence, I'm using the list on page 169, third column, as a pretext. Of course, on page 269, if you open to page 269, fíjate, si abres a la página, en español se dice si abres por la página, pero en inglés a. If you will see that I'm doing point number 22. Page 269, point 2422. Now, I spent the entire class yesterday with this point, and probably I will spend the entire class today on this point. And you say, we're not progressing. Yes, we are. Because I'm using the regular verb list as a pretext, as a springboard to do a lot of language. And I'm indirectly introducing concepts from here. So I'm using the exist, for example, to exist. I'm teaching you vocabulary. El mastodonte, el mamut de ayer, remember? Do mammoths still exist? No, they don't. Did they really exist? Yes, they existed. Existed, yes. Did the Earth exist 5 billion years ago? Well, according to geologists and astronomers, no. The Earth didn't exist 5 billion years ago. However, the Earth existed 4 billion years ago. The Earth was formed approximately, they say, 4 billion years ago. Yes. What didn't exist 100 years ago? Computers didn't exist 100 years ago. Really? No, computers didn't exist. Did they exist 20 years ago? Computers, yes. Computers existed 20 years ago. Existed. Fíjate en la pronunciación. Fijaos. Exist. Zaragoza. La zarzuela de Zaragoza es como la zarzuela en Italia. Exist. To exist is existir. Yes. Exist. Does the tooth fairy really exist? Yes, she does. The tooth fairy is female. Yep. The tooth fairy is female. And she exists. Does Santa Claus really exist? Yes. Santa Claus exists. Do the three kings really exist? Los Reyes Magos. Yes, they exist. Does Ratoncito Perez really exist? Of course, yes, he does. He. It's male. Yes, he exists. Did the tooth fairy, in Inglés, el hada de los dientes, did the tooth fairy exist when you were a little boy, Richard? When I was a little boy, yes, the tooth fairy existed. How much did she give you when you lost a tooth? The tooth fairy, era un poco rácana. She was a little bit stingy, a little tight. My tooth fairy was not very generous. Well, when you lost a tooth, where did you put it? Well, when I lost a baby tooth, diente de leche, when I lost a baby tooth, I put it under my pillow in the bed. And, well, the next morning, there was some money. Money? Yeah. How much? A nickel. Okay, what? A nickel. Nickel? What's that? Nickel is a 5-cent coin. Moneda de 5 centavos is a níquel. Viene del mineral níquel. Because originally, going back 100 years, nickels were made of nickel. And so nickel, in American English, nickel is a 5-cent coin. So I had a nickel under my pillow. Wow, that's not very much money. The tooth fairy is very stingy. Stingy is roñosa, la helada esta. Muy rácana, muy poco espléndida. All right, she's very stingy. She's very tight. Tight is apretado, tight. She's very tight. No. In 1957, 1958, a nickel was a lot of money. Yeah. Well, for a little boy who's 5 years old, a nickel is a lot of money. Yeah. So, the tooth fairy exists today, and she existed when I was little. But she didn't exist in Roman times. How do you know? Well, in Roman times, they didn't have the tooth fairy, and they didn't have Ratoncito Pérez. So the tooth fairy didn't exist, and the Pérez mouse didn't exist. No, in Roman times. No, in tiempos romanos. How do you know? Probably it did, or something similar. I mean, this tradition of a coin in exchange or in return for a baby tooth, dice leche se dice baby teeth. I imagine it existed. I'm sure it existed in Roman times. All right, well, that's your homework for tomorrow. Your homework for tomorrow is to find out, averiguar, if the tooth fairy or Pérez mouse or similar existed in Roman times. Existed, expanded, yes. The universe is expanding. According to the experts, according to astronomers, astrophysicists, the universe is continually, or continuously, those formas, continually expanding. 16 or 14 or 15 billion years ago, it was one ball, and there was a big bang. And the universe began to form and to expand. And according to the experts, según los expertos, according to, no according with, according to, existe una expresión in accordance with, pero es muy formal y muy burocrático, en cumplimiento con, o sea, de acuerdo con, en consonancia con, that's in accordance with. Ahora, según Pepe, soy mal profesor. According to Pepe, I'm a bad teacher. So it's en opinión de, is according to. All right. So according to the experts, the universe is still expanding. It's not contracting. It's expanding. It's not contracting. So, if that's true, then I'm sure that last year the universe expanded. And the year before, it expanded. And in Roman times, it expanded. It expanded every year during the 20th century. And the universe expanded every year during the 19th century. It expanded. All right, to expand. Expandir, claro, se dice, pero el verbo to expand se usa también en ampliar, les digo. Carlos, Maria, what's your opinion what's your opinion about the current political situation in Spain? La situación política actual. Yeah. What's your opinion about the current political situation in Spain? Well, I don't agree. Carlos, could you expand on that answer? Okay. En este caso, ¿podrías ampliar un poco tu respuesta tan escueta? Can you expand? También puedes o podrías. Podrías expandir, literalmente. Could you expand a little? Yes, concision is good. Yes, but it's too concise. Yeah, lo conciso es bueno, claro. What's the expression in Spanish? Lo bueno, si breve, dos veces bueno, I think is what you say. Lo bueno, si breve, dos veces bueno. All right. And we say concision is, I can't remember, Shakespeare. William Shakespeare had an expression, is something of wit. I can't remember. So I like concision. Be concise. Sé conciso. Escueto. Be concise. But not too concise. Could you expand a little, please? Expand. Expanded. The universe expanded last year. Existed, expanded, expected. Marta came here late. Well, it's not true. She didn't come late. Well, yes, it's true. She came late. She was late this morning because she expected me to be late as well. The reason, you see, do you remember I think I explained it yesterday or the day before. In the class the other day, well, the night before, I contacted Marta. I contacted her by phone message, and I told her I was going to be late the following day. That was yesterday's class. I told her I was going to be late. And so she expected me to come late or to be late. Si tiene que ser tarde o estar tarde. She expected that I was going to be late. However, I managed to get here on time. Logré. I managed, como gestionar. Dirigí, to manage, manage. I managed to get here on time. Logré llegar aquí a la hora. But she wasn't here. I expected her to be here because her starting time is 7:15 in the morning. It's early. But her official starting time is 7:15. Whether I come late or come early, she needs to be here at 7:15 to clock in. See, clock in is fichar. Now, I expected her to be here when I got here. I expected her to be here. Esperaba que estuviera. Preveía, esperaba. But she wasn't here. So I said, "Where are you?" And she said, "I'm on my way. I'm on my way." You remember? I'm on my way. And then she said, "I expected you to arrive late." And it was true. She expected me to arrive late, so she didn't come on time. Yes, so I expected her when I got here, but she wasn't here. Why? Because she expected me. Expected me to get here late. Hated, to hate. Yeah, I hate green peppers. Lo he dicho mil veces ya. You know perfectly well, pimientos verdes. Okay, I hate green peppers. And I have hated green peppers since the first day I ate them. Really? When was the first day you ate green peppers? I can tell you almost exactly. Almost exactly. Exactly no, but I can tell you almost exactly. The first time I ate green peppers was in early September 1974. Early September, yes. Not mid-September and not late September. Ni a mediados ni a finales de septiembre, a principios de. In early September was the first time in my life I tried green peppers. Really? Yeah. How old were you at that time in early September 1974? How old was I? Yes, how old were you? How old was I? Yes, how old were you? Escucha la fonética. ¿Cuántos años tenía? ¿Me preguntas? How old was I? Enlazo. How old was I? Was. How old was I? Yes. ¿Cuántos años tenías? How old were you? How old were you? How old were you? In September, early September, 1974, I was 22. I was 22. You mean that was the first time you tried green peppers in your life? Yes, that was the first time. My mother never cooked green peppers. And I never ate green peppers in restaurants in the first 22 years of my life. The first time I tried green peppers was in early September 1974. And why do you remember so well the exact time? Well, exact no, in a question of 10 or 15 days. 10 days maybe. Because I remember where I was. I remember where I was. Where were you? I was in a small village in Spain, in a house, with a family, in a small. Well, what was the name of the village? The name of the village was Almonací de Zorita. Almonací de Zorita. It rings a bell. Excuse me? It rings a bell. ¿Toca una campana? Yes, me suena. It rings a bell. ¿Se dice así? It rings a bell. No digas it rings me a bell. Porque en español se dice me suena. Entonces quieres añadir el me, pero no lo añadas, por favor. Don't add it. It rings a bell. Toca una campana. Así se dice. It sounds familiar to me. Si quieres añadir me, ahí lo tienes. Me suena familiar. It sounds familiar. Solemos cortar ahí. Pero si te gusta me, añades to me. It sounds familiar. Almonacid de Zorita. El castillo, Almonacid, el castillo del Señor. Almonacid. Where is it? It's in the province of Guadalajara. Is it near the capital? No, it's not near the capital. Almonacid isn't near the capital. Well, what places is it near? It's near Albalate de Zorita. Good. What else? Zorita los Candes. And why were you there? I was living there. Pasado continuo. Vivía allí, o estaba viviendo. I was living there, in that house. I was renting a room. Why were you renting a room in Almonacid de Zorita in September 1974? Because I was working. I was working there. In the house? No, in the house, no. I was living in the house. I wasn't working in the house. Well, were you working in Almonacid de Zorita? No, I wasn't working in the village. Where were you working? I was working in a nuclear plant. A what? A nuclear plant. Planta nuclear. Una central nuclear. Yeah. I was working in a nuclear plant. Really? What were you doing? Pasado continuo de nuevo. What were you doing in the plant? ¿Qué hacías? I was teaching English in the plant. I was the English teacher in the nuclear plant. Yeah. How long did you work there? 10 months, about 10 months, working in the nuclear plant. Yeah. If Marta turns off the lights, I glow in the dark. Yeah. Yes, I'm radioactive. Radioactividad. I'd glow in the dark. I'm a radioactive English teacher. Okay, but for 4 months, I lived in a house in Almonacid Cerita, renting a room with a Spanish family, a wonderful family. The grandmother, the mother and father, and 2 children, Pedrito, and I don't remember the name of the girl. The grandmother was a widow, Doña Mercedes. She was a widow, viuda. She was a widow. And her left arm was paralyzed. She couldn't use her left arm. Well, she could move the arm, but she couldn't bend her arm or her wrist. She couldn't bend her elbow or her wrist, but she could do that. And she was the taskmaster. She was in charge of the house. And she was the cook. She was a very good cook. She was a very good cook. But she cooked green peppers, pimientos. And I remember. She cooked a cocido madrileño. It was good, eh? But she put the pepper on top, covering everything. And I ate. I love cocido underneath, but I had to remove the pepper, and I tried it. Oof. I ate half the pepper, and I hated it. I hated it. Aquí viene la palabra. I hated it. Lo odiaba. Lo odié. I hated it. Hate. Hate is a very strong verb. Hate. Hate. What's the opposite of love? Well, some people say the opposite of love, lo contrario del amor. Some people say the opposite of love is hate. El odio. Hate. Maybe. Other people say the opposite of love is indifference. Yo tiendo a estar de acuerdo. I tend to agree with the second opinion. I tend to agree that the opposite of love is indifference, not hate. But Richard, yeah, have you ever hated somebody? Hated? I don't really think so. Hated? I don't think so. That's a very strong emotional feeling. I've hated food, green peppers, yes. Oh, but I've never hated a person. I'm a bit like the second opinion, indifference. I don't care. I don't include that person on the front row in my hour on the stage. En mi hora de escenario vital, the people in the front rows are people who are important to me. The rest are in the gallinero, up in the balcony. So I'm indifferent. Indifferent. Hated, included. All right, included. You know, why did you decide to include Li Tong in your characters? Li Tong, the Chinese factory worker. Why not? I included him because I wanted to include him originally 25 years ago. Yeah, when I created this method, I decided to include Li Tong. Yeah, but why did you include him? Why not? Well, he's only a factory worker. He's only a factory worker, yeah, but I included him anyway. I mean, do you have anything against factory workers? No. Operarios de fábrica. ¿Tienes algo en contra de ellos? No, Richard, I don't have anything against. Factory workers. But for me, it's strange that you included Li Tong entre tus personajes, among your characters. Well, I included him because I wanted the adjective Chinese. I want to include the adjective Chinese. It's a very important nationality. It's a very important adjective among the nationalities. American, Spanish, French, British, English, Chinese, Japanese, etc. So it's one of the most important countries in the world. Second, I wanted a person at a more modest professional level, a factory worker. Fine. Because Li Tong in the future is going to rise to an office worker. He's going to improve his situation through the English language. He's going to learn English in a very interesting way, a way I recommend to you. So, Li Tong is a representation of my recommendation or my advice about how to learn English. We will see this later in Li Tong's life. Okay? Also, you have the audios of every episode on their lives available in Vaughan. With this, I'll say goodbye. I'll come back tomorrow. Take care.